Okay, so let's get started. So welcome everyone to our third snow leopard webinar of 2021, and it's actually our fifth presentation in the country update series. So we've had a number of themes that have keep emerging in the country update series, and each one has shown how teams are working on collecting critical information on snow leopards ecology and their conservation status. They also have reflected the growing importance of community conservation as part of national strategies. And we're beginning to get a picture of many commonalities across the range. And SLN really hopes that these presentations start conversations between teams that can be taken further. And these exchanges can then help out map out overall patterns and opportunities across the snow leopards range. So today we have a very special update which focuses on the far western areas of the snow leopard range, and we're traveling to Afghanistan to the Wakhan corridor. So please welcome our guests, Sarush Faryabi and Yves Bonnet from WCS Afghanistan. So Sarush is the Conservation and Science Manager based in Kabul. He oversees the WCS conservation work in Afghanistan and the Wakhan National Park in particular. And he has been engaged in national conservation efforts since 2013. So thank you, Sarush, for joining us today. Our
Thank you, Jessica.
second speaker is Yves Bonnet, and she is a consultant for WCS Afghanistan and has been supporting their camera trap work and analysis. So Yves is currently a postdoctorate research fellow at San Diego State University. Welcome, Yves. So before starting, a message for everyone here joining us. Sarush will start by giving a presentation followed by Yves, and this should range between 30 to 40 minutes. It depends how we get into the presentations, but you will have the opportunity to ask questions during the discussion section after the presentations. However, if you want to ask any question, feel free to use the chat at any time, and we'll try to get to the questions in due course. And as a courtesy to all, please keep your microphones on silent unless you're asking a question or talking during the discussion period, because we might ask some of you to actually ask the question using your mic, because sometimes it's easier to exchange between participants. So without any ado, over to Sarush for the first presentation.
Thank you very much, Justine, for the wonderful introduction and also giving us the opportunity to present the conservation work in Afghanistan, particularly focusing on snow leopard. I also would like to thank all the participants taking time off their busy schedules, as well as accommodating different time zones. It must have not been easy. Thank you very much. Because of the internet connections in Afghanistan, I will turn off my video. So from here onwards, it's just going to be slide presentations. Thank you. So the talk is divided into 4 sections, and basically the first section is an introduction to conservation and historical background, which I will present, and some scientific efforts that we have undertaken in Afghanistan since 2002. And then Dr. Yves will present the use of artificial intelligence to identify snow leopard individuals. Then at the end, I'll come back and talk about the conservation efforts in Afghanistan. So conservation had its beginning in Afghanistan through protection of certain areas.
Sorry, can you share your screen? I'm not sure if it's shared. No worries, no worries. Go ahead.
Okay, what happened to Zoom?
I think that's a question many of us ask. So I think this is now showing presenter view.
Yeah, I'll just stop and share screen. This one. Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Sorry about that. So conservation had its beginning in Afghanistan through protection of certain areas for hunting reserved by kings and local khans or rich men. This concept was adopted by Garzandoy, or formerly known as the Afghanistan Tourism Organization in 1908, through establishment of the first hunting reserve in Pamir Mountains. And this work that they continued to conduct since 1908 until 1970 was quite a nascent activity, a nascent work with regards to conservation. And to support their work and efforts, in 1972, the United Nations Development Programme funded its first program titled Conservation and Utilization of Wildlife Resources. 1978, the Communist Democratic Party of Afghanistan took the power through coup d'etat, which it led to 3 decades of civil war. In 2002, under the Ahmed Karzai's administration, the United Nations Environment Programme funded the study of post-conflict environmental assessment for Afghanistan. And in 2005, NEPA, a regulatory agency, National Environmental Protection Agency, was established in order to oversee and coordinate programs and projects pertaining to environment. One such a program was biodiversity conservation at the landscape scale, funded by USAID and implemented by WCS in 2006. In 2007, NEPA enacted the environment law in Afghanistan. First confirmation of snow leopard was in 1899 by Danish explorer. Between 1899 and 2021, numerous studies have been carried out, and they resulted in multiple sightings. This map shows the preference, the preferred SL habitat in 2021. The areas shaded in a light green represents confirmed presence of snow leopard. The areas shaded in dark green represents the likelihood of snow leopard presence. And the areas in red represents the unconfirmed presence and preferred habitat of snow leopard in Afghanistan. WCS Afghanistan was formally and informally involved in conservation work since 2002, informally through UNEP on the analysis and the studies of post-environment and post-conflict Afghanistan. We have got a partnership with National Environmental Protection Agency and Ministry of Agriculture and Irrigation and Livestock at the national level. We provide technical support to the government on the focal areas of biodiversity conservation, landscape protected area management, natural resource management, adaptation to climate change, local institutional building, livelihood enhancement, education, outreach and capacity building, policy support and development. So Wakhan district is one of the priority landscape of GSLIP. It is approximately 10,000 square kilometers situated in the remote far northeastern province of Badakhshan, bordering Tajikistan, China, and Pakistan. It is the most important stronghold in Afghanistan for the snow leopard, and it is large prey species such as Siberian ibex, Marco Polo sheep. And in 2014, it was declared as a national park and managed as a IUCN Category 5 protected area by the government of Afghanistan. To detect the presence of snow leopard, the WCS team began its initial surveys in 2006 and 2007. The team adopted sign transit methods where they were able to record tracks and scats of snow leopard. This led to installation of camera traps between 2010 and 2014 in the locations where there were either actual snow leopard sightings, snow leopard tracks, or scats. The analysis of 2016 to 2014 snow leopard presence detections work resulted in design of capture-recapture grid and in the question Big Pamir. This is where I'm not going to talk too much about it, where Dr. Eve will take and elaborate further on this work at the later stage. Two male and two female snow leopards were captured and colored in 3 different valleys of Hindu Kush Mountains between May 2012 and September 2014. Each animal was colored for 13 months at a time, except for one male, which was colored for another 13 months. At the time, both females were with cubs, and the cubs were with their moms throughout this period. This work revealed that the color leopard had a mean home range size of 245 square kilometers. The average altitude used by the leopards was 3,828 meters above the sea levels. They preferred cold desert slopes, artemisia steppes, and rocky areas. This work is currently used for habitat suitability modeling at the moment. As part of the ecological survey of Wakhan, ungulates have been monitored since 2006 using sign transit, total count, and in 2015, the double observer count was adapted to institutionalize the long-term monitoring of Marco Polo sheep and ibex. These 2 species are considered as an indicator species for Wakhan landscape, and the ibex is a natural prey species for snow leopard and other key predators. For the purpose of habitat preference modeling and climate change impact modeling, we have been monitoring the rangeland conditions and health since 2006 in Wakhan, Big Pamir and Little Pamir, mostly not in the corridor. To better understand snow leopard human conflict, livestock predation is monitored in Wakhan National Park. The 2018 Wakhan opinion survey conducted by Zalmay Mohib stated that wolves and snow leopards were perceived to be responsible for all recognized cases of livestock predation. The survey also found that 90% of livestock predation in their area were allegedly caused by wolves, and less than 10% were allegedly caused by snow leopards. Habitat suitability modeling created for snow leopards, as well as pre-species argali, ibex, and marmots. Current distribution snow leopard in left shows that the map on the left shows that the green areas are more preferred than yellows by snow leopards. And under the 2 scenarios of climate change, meaning that increase in the temperature, either low CO2 emission or high CO2 emission, there is a shrinkage of these habitats. In the context of high emission, we can see, which is the bottom right, we can see the fragmentation in the snow leopard distribution in Afghanistan. And with pockets of snow leopard remaining in Wakhan northeast, Badakhshan, and the most southeast region. The fragmentation or the inland islands in the north will have an impact on the survival of snow leopard and can result in the extension of snow leopard in that area. I will now hand over to Dr. Eve to present her work on individual identification of snow leopards, and after her presentation, I will, in the infamous words of the Terminator, I'll be back to present the conservation efforts in Afghanistan. Dr. Eve, I'll pass it back to you.
Great, thanks so much, Saurav. So I'm going to present a little bit of the work that I've done for sorting the camera trap data that was collected in the Wakhan corridor. So I have some information here about the corridor and that, you know, how big it is and where it is exactly. And the camera trap setup that I was looking at was a total of 33 camera traps set up across the study area between October 2017 and May 2018. And so that set of cameras is here in black. And you can also see the cameras that are in pink where there were 30 camera traps set up between June 2019 and October 2019. And those may have a black border around the edge if they were set up the previous year as well. So the objectives of my work were to perform individual ID of snow leopards and then compare the individuals within geographic areas, the east and west sides of the study area, which I'll show you some of the boundaries for those two study areas later. And then compare, those east and west side individuals within each survey. There have been some previous efforts to perform camera trapping in the same area in 2012 and 2013, which Suresh touched on a little bit. There were 394 leopard sightings in those camera trap data and 62 leopard profiles. There were 52 unknowns. And they had divided those profiles into levels 1, 2, and 3 according to how certain they were of them matching and the individuals matching. So there were 21 level 1 profiles, 13 level 2, and 28 level 3 that ended up not being used. The level 3 profiles were not included in the data analysis finally. So they had around 34 that were used. And so for the 2017 to 2019 data, we had around 9,000 pictures of snow leopards. There were 390 occurrences of 1 hour subsets. And within those 1 hour subsets, there were 560 animal encounters. And you can see here, there were different numbers of encounters in the different years. A big part of the process was cleaning this data set and doing the individual ID. I would say the modeling work was very much just a small subset of the work that I've done over the past 6 months on the data. I think this is common for most people doing ecological research. And so I initially wanted to find a collaborator to do some artificial intelligence type work on this. And I kind of struggled to find a collaborator at first. And then I found the Wild Book organization that's been doing artificial intelligence. And they had actually recently set up a platform for jaguars called Jaguar Book. They had called it Jaguar Book. And I contacted them. They let me know that they were interested in expanding the platform to being for all big cats, and that they were very willing to help me get set up and train the platform for the detection algorithm and sorting data to work with the platform. And so here's the Whisker Book. You can go to this website. It's called whiskerbook.org. And so this is the platform I've been working on this past 6 months to train for snow leopards, what they've already done for jaguars. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this for a few minutes only. So the platform works using the hotspotter algorithm, similar to other platforms. You may see Wild ID. There's a few other platforms out there that also use hotspotter. And so this platform also can match 2 images against each other to find hotspots. It can also match 1 image against a series of images for an individual. So if you label your individuals, let's say you have 10 different individuals that are labeled in the system, it will match against all of those and try to find the best matches for that one picture against the entire database. So it can be a very handy tool to help supplement the manual work. And I found the Wild Book platform overall is really very handy. Maybe I can demonstrate. I'll demonstrate really quickly one of the really interesting features that I think makes it a really excellent tool. So I'm loading all the results for the entire survey. So all of my data is here. This isn't a very good example because it's just the tail here, but I'll just show you. You can match against the hotspotter algorithm or use this visual matcher that matches against any other camera trap location. This may take a second to load, so, oh yeah, there it is. So every other camera trap location at this site will come up, and you can look through these and kind of compare against these. And then you can change the camera trap location and search against any other location. So that's one of the really cool features it has. There's a number of features you can specify for other data that you might want to enter as well. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the algorithms that we were using. So the hotspotter comes from this paper by Crawl et al., and it uses k-nearest neighbors. It's basically the SIFT algorithm works such that the k-nearest neighbors are found in a cluster using a SIFT algorithm that basically it puts out a bunch of points onto the picture and it finds clusters within those pictures. So here there are two pictures that are kind of rotated a little bit, and you can see the clusters that the SIFT sorted out as being the same as the other photo. So there are some downsides to this. It's not the best photo matching algorithm. And so what we've been working on the past few months, a woman named Olga Moshkovac has been working with Wildbook to implement this pose invariant embeddings. We call it PI. She calls it PI. Everyone calls it PI because it's mainly used for photo recognition for faces, facial photo recognition. And it's a convolutional neural network. So she's in the process right now of training the algorithm with the data that I've supplied to her, and this will very soon be a part of the Wildbook platform for everyone to use. And I'm going to get into Wildbook more, hopefully during a training session, and the executive director is going to give an introduction to the platform. I can conduct a basic training on all of the ins and outs on how to use the Whisker book and how to organize your data and whatnot. So that can come later, either through the Snow Leopard network or, I may do a standalone video. We haven't really worked anything out yet. But yeah, so this is definitely something that the Snow Leopard community can even use now. So the people who really want to get on it and put their data up there, you definitely can. Your data are, secure there. They're not then open source or anything. And you can collaborate with other researchers who may be nearby. I think that's one of the benefits is you can share your data and match against the database if you want to of another researcher's profiles as well. So it makes it a really powerful tool for people who are working in close proximity and may want to match against each other's data online in a platform like this. Anyway, back to the Wakhan study. So after several rounds of sorting, we found 173 animals detected, individuals, and 79 were detected more than once on the cameras and 27 were detected twice. And 94 were detected only one time. And that means that they were either very high quality photos that I could not find a match for, or they were simply low quality matches. We did find 71 individuals on the west side of the study area and 109 on the east side. So it seems like the population may be bigger on the east side. We won't really know until I finish some of the spatial capture recapture analyses. I did have a kind of a format for finding, sorting whether the photos were low quality or high quality. So I would look for 3 points of contact, and if there weren't 3 points of contact to match against, I would label those as low quality. That usually means that I wouldn't see the sides well enough. I would only see the head or the tail regions, and a lot of times those do not have 3 points of contact. Or not seeing the left or right hand side clearly, if the photos were too blurry, bad angle, glare. And then there were some that were simply bad quality that had parts of the animal only, like the tail, like the photo I just showed you in the Wildbook. That was a bad quality encounter. And too close, or maybe just too close, too close to the camera to really recognize any patterns. And so we did have a total of 375 high quality occurrences, and then 185 that were low quality. And so I did a further set of filtering in Oscar, the package Oscar, to find out, were there some snow leopards that just had really different spatial configurations like this one. You can see They were found at several camera trap sites here and then way over here. So I went back through and double checked those. And at first glance, they look really similar, but looking more detailed into the data, we could filter out which ones matched and which ones didn't. I also did several rounds of sorting that included sorting in each station. So I would go through each station, I would check the individuals, and then I went through for each individual and I checked whether all of the photos that matched with each individual were correct. And so finally, with the final filtering, we can see there are two distinct east and west kind of subsets here, as if they don't really cross over even. I'm not sure if that's because of the camera trap setup or the data, or there is some major boundary here. I'm not exactly sure. I did divide up the study area for separate modeling approaches. There are two buffer masks that I made. One was around 16 square kilometers around each camera trap. The other one was around the entire park boundary, which is this black line. And so we're doing spatial capture, recapture analysis with several environmental covariates, topographic roughness index, slope, elevation, roughness index, and then splitting those up into the different 3-month time periods. And then also we labeled which were only left side and which were only right side photos, so we could analyze those separately. And then within that, then looking at all qualities of photo matches and then sorting out the high quality photos only. And so this is an example. I'm not really quite done with this. So we got to the point where we wanted to present some kind of quick analysis. And this one is from the first subset, October to December 2017, for the 16 kilometer squared buffer with no covariates. And we can see some of the basic estimates are highlighted here. And so, comparing this to the 2013, 2012 surveys, they had 62 individuals that they found. So these estimates kind of line up with this. And this is on the left-hand side, we have the models that were run with all of the data. And on the right-hand side, these are the ones with the high quality data only that had filtered out any of the low quality matches. And so for the park boundary, the much larger, this also does not have covariates. These are the first estimates that we've gotten so far. So yeah, so this pretty much wraps up my part of the talk. And so I'm going to pass back to Sarosh, who's going to finish discussing the conservation in this area. Thanks so much.
Hi, Sarosh. You are on mute, I think.
Sorry about that. In the side of conservation, NEPA has done a remarkable work over the last 15 years. Sorry, can I just go back? 2009, NEPA and MAIL signed the interministerial procedure on managing protected areas. And in 2010, the National Protected Area System Plan was finalized. Hunting law is drafted and waiting to be approved by the cabinet at this stage. It was drafted in 2013, and it's something that was drafted in 1972 as well. So almost 50 years once and another 50 years waiting for it to be enacted again. So sorry about that. 2012. The government of Afghanistan developed the INSLAP plan for Afghanistan and presented to the GSLAP Secretariat in 2013. And in 2020, supported updating Afghanistan's portfolio under GSLAP. In 2009, the Afghanistan Wildlife Executive Committee was established. The committee has since drawn up 4 successive protected species lists covering a total of 149 species, including the snow leopard in that coverage. National illegal Wildlife Trade Task Force, with representations from 16 relevant ministries and non-governmental institution members were established. The overall objective of the task force is to develop, implement, and enact laws, regulation, and policies to monitor and regulate illegal wildlife trade and poaching in Afghanistan. WCS works in 3 pillars with regards to One Health. Pillar 1, build capacity of Afghan practitioners detecting and reporting contagious diseases. 2, detect and monitor disease in livestock, wildlife, and dogs, such as PPR, FMD, canine distemper, and others. Third pillar is disease preventions through vaccinations of FMD, PPR, and other vaccination and treatments. WCS has supported technically and financially community ranger program in Wakhan National Park since 2007. The community ranger program is implemented in coordination with Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Irrigation and Livestock, and the National Environmental Protection Agency and Wakhan Pamir Association. Community rangers operate in Wakhan Corridor, Little Pamir, Big Pamir, Ishkashim District. Ishkashim District is a buffer zone of Wakhan National Park. WCS trained 46 rangers on monitoring of wildlife, focusing on snow leopard, ibex, Marco Polo sheep, and urial, as well as investigating poaching and predation incidents in Wakhan National Park. SMART was introduced in 2017 with the objective of improving and monitoring the community rangers patrol, as well as improving the monitoring and data collection of wildlife observations. Over the years, the SMART has evolved to monitoring poaching and predation incidents. In 2020, WCS started piloting SMART Mobile. We are in the process of evaluating this new system. Wakhan Management Plan encompasses the Big Pamir and Tiga Mansour Wildlife Reserve has been approved by Wakhan community, Wakhan Pamir Association, local and provincial government. It is waiting in Kabul to be approved by the national government. To better manage the natural resources and enact the management plan, Protected Area Committee for Wakhan National Park has been also established. The Protected Area Committee will support land use planning, inform snow leopard conservation, and protected area management effectiveness. Members of this committee comprised of women, youth, representatives of local community and provincial government, as well as civil society within the area. We develop community awareness programs to promote and engage community into conservation. To access women, we designed women-only activities. These activities are very well received by the communities, and an average between 1,000 to 1,200 women participates in this activity. It is conducted in the 42 villages of Wakhan Corridor. Trained 564 members of Afghan National Police, Border Police, National Military Academy, Custom Department, Kabul University, and other government counterparts on conservation and natural resource management, national laws, and CITES in Kabul and Wakhan. 41 communal predator-proof corrals built and 996 household corrals enhanced to safeguard livestock and reduce human-wildlife conflict. More than 4,000 individuals from local communities employed for afforestation over since 2006, and they have planted over 300 hectares of the land with native species. Over 90,000 sheep and goats have received PPR vaccination, and 30,000 yaks and cattle received FMD vaccination since 2006. 100 solar cookers have been distributed to reduce pressure on rangelands and alluvial plants. This is a recent initiative, and we are looking to further studies to see how much of an impact these solar dishes will have on rangelands. Nature-based tourism promoted through a range of initiatives, such as construction of tourism center in Ishkashim, and the improvement and repair of tourist trails and camps in Wakhan towards in Wakhan National Park. At this point, I'd like to thank you for your time, and also I'd like to thank our donors and partners, NEPA, MAIL, the European Commission, UNDP, GEF, Foundation SIGRI, National Geographic, USAID, and our partners, Wakhan Pamir Association, Center for Climate System Research, the Earth Institute at Columbia University, our Foundation, and University of Central Asia, as well as the Afghanistan team, and Dr. Stefan Ostrovsky, Senior Technical Advisor for WCA's in the Asia region, and Mr. Zalmay Moheb and Gary Shea supporting of these projects and activities in Afghanistan, and also supporting this presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, Sarosh and Eve, for these really fascinating presentations, both showing the conservation on the ground, but also your recent analysis. So for those that arrived late, please continue writing your questions in the chat, and we'll get to them. But just to kick us off, I do have one question, Sarosh, for you. You mentioned threats such as climate change, disease, illegal wildlife trade as a threat to snow leopards or their habitat in the area. What do you think are some of the major emerging threats in the future for them that they might face in this area?
One of the major threats we see is the primary is the climate change at this stage, but the other threat that we anticipate and will see is population growth, overgrazing, as well as the Belt in One Road initiative that is right now happening in Wakhan, where we have got dirt tracks being built from Ishkashim all the way to Little Pamir, and this year they're planning to build one to Big Pamir. So poaching would be others.
Thank you, Sarosh. Thanks. So I see that we have some are raising their hands, which is great, which makes this discussion more interactive. So I see Kustub, you raised your hand. Please go ahead and ask your question to Eve or Sarosh.
Thank you, Justine. And well, really, thank you, Sarosh and Eve. It was not only a very nice presentation, it was not only informative, but also visually extremely appealing. So really, thank you and congratulations for the wonderful presentation out there. To be honest, firstly, it's very heartening to see that you're using Oscar. Chris Sutherland, who's part of the PAWS scientific advisory panel, will be delighted that Oscar is being deployed in more and more sites, and I think that's very exciting. I just had two small comments, and please feel free, we can always take those that conversation offline. Actually, three questions. One of them is, so Eve, when you described your integration area, your study area for the spatial capture analysis, you mentioned that you have defined the borders. I think on one hand, it was big. I mean, there seemed to be a very hard border. On the other side, it was a park border. So are there any physical barriers that are preventing animals to cross these boundaries that have been defined, or was this assumed that the animals are not likely to come from beyond these borders? And then I have another question, Justine, if that's okay.
Of course, always for you.
For that first one now, or do you want to ask your second question?
Maybe if you can answer this one, the second one's slightly, yeah, it's more of a suggestion, unsolicited suggestion,
okay.
so you can ignore that.
Okay. Yeah, so to answer your question on the, I was hoping to pull up my slides really quick to show you the map again. Here they are. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the study area is such that there's this large river that runs down here, and there's also a road in the valley. So that is a natural boundary. And then the upper area here, the elevations do get quite high. I'm not so sure that they get any higher beyond this. And so, you know, we do find areas above 56. Well, maybe just this point. There's a few points up here. And so for the purposes of the park, I you know, subset it to that. Sure. I think it is a bit bigger than maybe is necessary. So there were some points that ended up getting clipped out, like this part gets clipped out pretty well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That helps. The other point that I just wanted to make here is that since you are using Oscar, and also because your data from telemetry does really reveal very nuanced movement of the animals, they're not really moving uniformly like they are relatively more often doing in case of the South Gobi landscape. I think it might be worth a little effort to explore the non-Euclidean movement around activity centers, because you have data to back that up already, and that might be quite intriguing to understand the density, because sometimes it can make a huge difference to the densities as well.
Oh, great. Yeah, thanks for that suggestion.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Christine.
I'll
And
shut up
thanks,
with that.
Eve.
Thank you.
Just one other question to Eve before we come to you, Luke. I see in the chat there's a question from Shannon about how these abundance numbers translate into density, Eve. There was a question for you.
I didn't present the density estimates. Obviously, those are outputs from the program as well. So these are the abundance estimates, and density will come later. This is very preliminary modeling work. I just recently started doing this, the final modeling. So more to come with the final report. So this is all very beginning, just an example to show everyone kind of where we're at.
Thanks, Eve. No, that's great. We'll let Shannon know. Now over to Luke. I see you have your hand up. Go for it.
Thanks, Justine. And that was great. Thanks, Sarush and Eve. It was super and very, very comprehensive. A lot of stuff going on that even I work for the same organization. I wasn't aware of it. So thanks. It was really useful and very comprehensive. Sarush, I think this question is for you. I'm really interested in, you had a very impressive list of various interventions and some interesting metrics, many household corrals improved or reinforced, many communal corrals, lots of livestock vaccination. Are you able to speak at all to the outcomes of that? Have you been able to monitor whether those interventions have been successful in presumably your goal of reducing retaliatory killing and other threats to snow leopards? I'm interested if you've been able to monitor that. You might be on mute, Sarush.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we have been doing monitoring of our interventions in the area. For example, the corrals has been quite effective in reducing human-wildlife conflict since the establishment and introduction of the corrals. And also with regards to the disease preventions, Wakhan is outflow with regards to the livestock, and it's not an inflow. That means that whatever goes out, we can control the zoonosis diseases within the area, because majority of the livestock are bartered between the communities and traders. So a lot of livestock that exist in Wakhan are produced by within Wakhan itself. They don't bring anything from outside. There is not much of a external disease transmission between livestock in the area. So we've been monitoring, and if you would like, we can discuss this further on another call. Just at the moment, we are looking at publishing some papers and publishing some work in these areas, so we can discuss it further in more detail.
Splendid. Thanks, Sarush. Yeah, I think, and just I would have suggested that, and I'm glad you're ahead of that. I think getting this into publications would be really useful. So thanks, and thanks again for a great presentation.
Thanks, Luke, and thanks, Sarush. I think many teams across the range, it would be great to hear more about these success stories about interventions, because many of them can carry across different parts of the range. So we look forward to hearing more about that, Sarush. And just to add on to that question related to disease, Aliana is asking if you've seen any cases of canine distemper virus in snow leopards themselves, snow leopard individuals, or other carnivores in the Wakhan area, potentially wolves or maybe feral dogs?
So we haven't yet. We have started the study this year. We basically tested about 52 dogs, and we are looking at the results at the moment, and we should be able to, we are looking to conduct further studies and hopefully present the data in the following year.
Thank you, Sarosh. And just to add a question, just a curiosity from my part, are feral dogs potentially a threat, direct threat on snow leopards other than disease? Like, have you had incidences of them attacking snow leopard individuals?
So there isn't many feral dogs exist in Wakhan corridor. They're all shepherd dogs. There has been conflict between dogs and wildlife, mainly with regards to wolves and some snow leopards as well. Unfortunately, we have not been able to look into the snow leopard side of diseases at the moment. This is a preliminary study which we started this year, so we would be able to provide further information due to the course and next following years near future.
Super. So we'll have to invite you back. So now a question, I think Arash has his hand up to ask a question. Go for it, Arash.
Yeah, hi. Thanks from my part as well. It was really fascinating work. And yeah, as Kustub also mentioned, heartwarming basically to see so many amazing things are happening in the Wakhan corridor. A question of curiosity, more or less, and maybe also related to what Kustub brought up earlier. I was wondering if there has been any transboundary initiatives since, I mean, just right across the border in Tajikistan, there is also quite prime snow leopard habitat existing. And I think one of the radio-colored individuals was going in from what you showed on the slide. So even cross-checking the individuals from camera trapping work or like any conservation intervention ideas that are going on, just out of curiosity, would be amazing.
Sarosh, would you like to?
So yes, we had a female snow leopard basically decided that she needed a holiday from Wakhan corridor and went for a 10-day holiday to Tajikistan and returned back. Yeah, basically there has been initiatives between Tajikistan, and since 2009 there was a discussion of opening a peace park between Tajikistan, Afghanistan, and China. Unfortunately, the political situation is not conducive or allows for this sort of an activity to occur. Currently, there has been a MOU signed between the government of Republic of Afghanistan and Tajikistan to strengthen the collaboration with regards to the environment sector and wildlife research. So we are hoping, this is a new initiative which was signed last year. We're hoping that this will be further strengthen our work in the cross-border and transboundary work, start transboundary work in both sides of the Amur Pine River Basin.
Thank you, Arash, and thank you,
Thanks.
Sarosh. Very interesting. I think we have 3 more questions coming up, and I think Kustub, your hand was still up, so we'll come back to you after the 2 other questions in case you have more to add. But over to Orion, you have quite a long question, and since you're part of our steering committee, if you're okay to say it with the mic, that would be great. Orion, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, yes, can find my Zoom window.
Don't worry, go for it.
Right. No, so the question was, it seemed there's many have presented different means to improve the livestock holding facilities, and it would just be interesting to hear if you've been able to monitor how well these worked in Afghanistan. There are a few different designs of them.
So specifically related to the corrals, then you're asking about.
Yeah, I think it was more like houses maybe, but yeah, corrals are.
So Dr. Zalmay Moheb just recently joined and completed his PhD. He did an entire thesis on that and published on with regards to human-wildlife conflict and livestock predations. And we are looking at the moment with regards to the, we know that the corrals are quite effective in terms of communal corrals and household corrals being enhanced in and Wakhan corridor. As I stated before, we are hoping to publish some papers and provide peer-reviewed publication on this matter in later stages. And if you would like to discuss this further, we would be able to have a one-to-one chat after this meeting, if that's possible. My email address is there. We can have a discussion later on. And I would also bring Dr. Stefan Ostrovsky if he has got anything to add to this question here.
Yes, Soros, thank you. Orion, yes, of course, there are different designs. You do have the community coral, which is actually a de novo coral that is built with communities in one place. It's usually a structure that is about 20 by 8 for in the range of 400 to 500 sheep and goats, which is a completely, I would say, locked system. That's one. There is a downside to these systems. It's that you usually you privileging one piece or part of the community over the other, because typically the benefit does not flow necessarily within all the communities. So the other approach also in terms of design that we have developed is that we are actually also protecting the household corals. So the household coral is typically adjacent to the home. The volume usually is for a maximum 20 sheep and goats. They're actually very important for livelihood, because this is where women go to get the milk and prepare their dairy product for the family. They don't have to walk far away to a community coral. It belongs to them, of course. And so it means that we're just protecting any opening, roofs, etc., doors. We're trying to improve that. So two very different types of protection with different social also outputs to this protection. What can I say that in terms of maintenance, the big corals will depend really on the engagement of the, I would say, the wealthy part of the community, which usually own this big coral. And for the household corals, it's family, it's household-based maintenance. And they are quite successful. There is an issue of sometimes maintenance. Some people would be needing, for example, the mesh, the fence, the mesh and they'll be removing it from the coral and using for something else. We actually had one case last year of a predation in supposedly protected household corals. And then we realized that the people actually had removed the mesh to be using it for something else. And the leopard came in and I think killed in the range of 20 sheep and goats. So yeah, there are different methods. Yes, so the picture shows you the big household, and then the 1 to 1 meter frames with mesh either on doors or on ventilation holes in the roof.
Thank you. No, that's an excellent explanation. That looks great. I'd be happy to discuss if you want, but you are far more experienced in this than me. But I would be happy to discuss if you would want to. Thank you.
No, sure. We are of course open to discuss all this. I think that there is an element of social value and livelihood important in the. It's not only about strictly, I mean, avoiding the contact between predators, but there is also a big social value in this work beyond just the protection of livestock. And this is something I think that has been little explored at the moment, but the design, as you rightly mentioned, makes a difference in this social value.
Just to add to Dr. Stefan's points is that recently there was a predation incident occurred in one of the villages in Wakhan, but fortunately there's no retaliatory killing as occurring in Wakhan at the moment, because people are looking for compensations, and also they know that the conservation values of the snow leopards are much higher than a retaliatory reaction towards it. So there are there needs to be further consideration on how we can compensate or how the compensation system could work in Wakhan National Park.
Just to one point, to come back to this question of Luke, outcome very difficult to measure, of course. We try always to have at least the output evaluation. But typically, for example, the women-only awareness campaign that have been designed to access the women. Otherwise, it's quite difficult in these conservative societies, where now it's been several years we kind of repeating this type of activity, and so we've been monitoring the level of acceptance of the communities very basically by asking, I mean, the 1,000 women. So what do you think about snow leopard? Is it good? Is it bad, etc.? And we've seen a good trend of other years that less and less women see that snow leopard as something bad. So there is a significant improvement every year, and we hope that their kids, because kids usually are attending this, also it percolates to the kids, I would say. However, it's absolutely the same situation for the wolf. So whatever we can say about the wolf, about the usefulness, whatever, is just complete negation. They don't like it. So we are still almost 100% of women are against the wolf. And I think it's what is observed elsewhere across the range, if I'm correct.
Thank you, Stefan and Sarosh. I think that's super interesting, especially about the corrals also supporting women. Some of us in other range countries have been actually looking at that, like you said, this other value than just losses, how women might have more negative views on snow leopards. So this does help support them. So thank you. That's really interesting. We have a few more minutes left, and I see that Chauncey from Beijing Institute in Beijing, Wildlife Institute in Beijing, has a question about the collared individuals. So Chauncey's institute just recently collared a snow leopard in China. So maybe this relates to this question. So he would like to find out more information on the results from those 4 collared individuals. Sarosh, I don't know if you have anything else to share, for example, home range or the altitude range that they covered, or any other information?
Sure. What we have noticed is that, as I mentioned in my presentation, that the collared snow leopard had a home range of a size of 245 square kilometers, and the average altitude used by the snow leopard was 382 meters above the sea levels. 3,828 meters above the sea level. And they did like cold desert slopes are major steps in rocky areas. Yeah, and these studies are now, these data are being used to develop models of climate change and habitat preferences for snow leopard. And this is something that we're working at the moment. And we hope to have predictions till 2070 of the change in shifts occurring in the area, as well as how it impacts the snow leopard habitats and the range as well in the Almopine River Basin. If she is interested, we can have further discussions, and I can involve our climate change team modelers in the discussion as well with her.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarosh. So I think that is all the questions, unless there's any final questions from anyone in the audience. Sarosh and Yves, do you have any last thing to share with everyone before we end?
No, we just like to thank all the participants for taking time off their busy schedules and participating in this talk. Thank you, the SLN network, for the hard work and persistence, and also giving us this opportunity in this slot to present the conservation work in Afghanistan. And we hope that we will have further presentations near the end of the year once we have further results on our other activities and other work that we are doing in Afghanistan. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Sarosh. And Yves, any last thoughts you want to share?
No, thank you so much to the Snow Leopard Network for hosting the talk, and I think it went really well, and thank you so much.
So yeah, I think you'll see many messages in the chat just saying a huge thank you for this. Really, it was really a fascinating talk and discussion. So we really wish you best in the developments of your work. And I'm sure everyone, I think that you have many colleagues who might follow up with you with questions. So I thank you for sharing and taking the time to exchange, because these perspectives and exchanges are really vital in the context of snow leopard conservation efforts and across the range. And a huge thank you to everyone that joined us here today for supporting our guests and the webinar series. I feel like everyone here is a really supportive group to each other, and it really creates a genuine community across countries in the world. So a huge thank you from SLN to our speakers, to our participants, and everyone who joined in the discussion. Thank you. I hope we can continue these conversations offline or one day in person at either a pause meeting or further, as Kustub would say. So thank you all. Thank you, Soroush and Eve. So I think, and we can log off then if everyone's happy. Thank you all.